Good day, everyone. This is Professor Savini, just saying hello, checking in with you. We're into Module 7. We're talking about virtue ethics in Part 1, right? And basically, what we're getting at here is there's a foundation that underlies duty and obligation. They, in and of themselves, rest upon, let's say, virtue. What is virtuous? And you're going to be exploring, or you've begun exploring already, this notion of virtue ethics. Do we follow Aristotle, pure logic, pure reason, like Dr. Spock on Star Trek, the original series? Or what about Confucius, where it's about moral duty extended to the community? Or is it Hume, taking in the softer side of Sears, right? The sentimental aspect, the emotional aspect? Or do we look at Nietzsche and the concept of the will to power? You can overcome, you can do this if you really want to. This superhuman, super morality type of viewpoint. So we're exploring these, right? Now, I want you to stay focused as well on your second and third papers, okay? Your second paper is due the 27th, I believe. And in that paper, we spoke about it at the first video, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time now talking about what we're looking for, but just in a broader context. You're going to evaluate your environment. I want you to think about that in the terms of, for those of you that are auditors, at the Institute of Internal Auditor, or Auditors, the IIA, I serve as the president of the Public Sector Advisory Council. And in the last couple of years, we've been talking a lot about these culture audits. And now it's gone into diversity and inclusion type audits. And think about what I'm asking you to do in papers 2 and 3 in that context. I want you to understand your culture, okay? And think about diversity not from the fact of any demographics such as religion, sexual orientation, or skin color. Think about it more in a broader context. The diversity of your industry, your company, the thinking, the attitudes, the virtues or the lack thereof, right? Because as an auditor would do in a culture audit, let's say an objective culture audit is to study the major stakeholders and what their needs or wants are, and evaluate how the organization's strategic objectives, right, are in alignment or misalignment, shall we say. I'm really painting these culture audits with a broad brush, but for our purposes, that's, I think, sufficient. So again, keep this in mind, and I'll just leave you with a little vignette, okay? Another South Florida vignette, Dante. My nephew Dante, his last name is DePanasis, so shout out to Dante DePanasis. And Dante told me many years ago when he was young, breaking into the business in South Florida, that his last name was an impediment. Yes, it was. DePanasis, of course, is an Italian Greek origin name, and in the business he was in, I won't give you the specifics, but in the industry he was in, there was what we will call the good old boy network, okay? Southern gentlemen, shall we say, who loved their football, loved their barbecue food. They spoke about us Eye-talians and other ethnics, right, as being different, okay? That's fine, we are, no problem there. But Dante was having a problem getting work. And what he had to do, now he's a native Floridian, born there, raised there, went to school. He's a Gator, so if any Gator fans, Some of you Seminoles, I'm sorry what they do with that toilet paper thing. Oh, it's horrible. I know. But anyway, what we, the point of the vignette is he began doing cold calling. And once they heard him and they heard his accent and they realized he just wasn't an Eye-talian, he was a Floridian, and he knew college football. Dante's outstanding with college football. And he knew not only the history, but he knew the current stats of all the teams in the conference down there, all around the country actually. They warmed up to him. And he told me, he said, you know, Uncle Dom, I had to figure that out. I had to figure out where these folks were coming from. And he didn't criticize them. He didn't demean them. He just said, I understood where they were coming from and I met them on their terms. And he had to overcome the, shall we say, bias towards being an Eye-talian in South Florida. So again, I'm asking you, if you haven't done so already, and I would assume a lot of you are already sized up the people you work with, you work for, your customers, but I want you to do it now objectively through the lens of what we're talking about here. Critical thinking, understand your bias. You may have a bias towards Eye-talians. That's okay. You're entitled to your bias. Don't act on it though. Constrain it. Put it aside and give a real objective evaluation, okay? Including maybe of yourself in this, because unless we're aware of our environment, okay, we can't react well to it. And that can hurt you and harm you in your professional career, not only for career advancement, but also in dealing with ethical challenges, okay? You've got to really understand the people, the players, their objectives, their frameworks, and your framework, and see, like Dante, how can you get it to mesh so it's a win-win, or as best as you can, limit the damage, all right? So with that being said, if you have any questions about paper 2, or even paper 3, listen, you know how to reach me. Some of you are already doing it, and you're doing it quite well, thank you. And I try to respond as soon as I can. Overall, you're doing very well as a class. I know it's a lot of reading. I've tried to limit the amount of reading, believe it or not. I think you've seen that. I'm paring it down a bit because I have the utmost respect for Professor Smith. But as a practitioner and as a former student, right, and now training and teaching adults, I understand it's a big load, okay? But here's the other thing I also understand, okay? Like with exercise, unless you push yourself a bit to break that sweat, make that muscle ache a bit, okay, you're not going to get the benefit. So I need for you to hang in there, okay? I don't want to say about halfway through, but you know, we're roughly halfway through, okay? And for those of you that are just getting by, I understand there can be reasons why, and you know what I mean by that. The textbooks after the class should be a reference for you. I really like the Menzel and the Duska textbooks from a practical point of view. So for those of you that are not able to maybe to keep up as much as you'd like, it's okay. You've got these texts because ultimately we're trying to empower you for a forward-looking future that's going to deal with ethics the right way, serving the public, okay? Very good. You know how to reach Dr. Dom in case you're feeling a little sick, okay? And we'll take care of your ailment. Thank you. Stay well. And remember, I'm Italian, not Eye-talian. Ciao.